There we have the President Geingob wrapping up his opening statement for the first session of Cabinet for 2018, and of course, as he put it, asking the strangers to leave now so they can carry on with Cabinet business. But let's perhaps, like I said before, I'm joined by a political analyst, Dr. Charles Mubita. Let's perhaps start off with what everybody's been waiting for, and that's the Cabinet reshuffle. He used the analogy of a football team, saying that, well, I can't really appoint any new people. I can only recycle the people that I have in you. Are you surprised by some of the appointments made?
I'm not really surprised. I think I'm taken by the President's opening remarks, where he spoke about the attitude of the executive members and then accountability and obviously the complaints that have been mounting. But the only thing that would be surprising, I think, is the change of the Minister of Justice and Attorney General, the swap between the two. That's a little bit surprising. The other one that is a little bit surprising too is the taking Comrade Ngachideko as Minister of Presidential Affairs. Well, in terms of wisdom, yes, he would be able to work together with the President. But I think the notion that the President will be taking care of him, that one is a little bit surprising. Yeah. Because I believe he needs somebody that should be running presidential affairs, not necessarily somebody to be taken care of. Yeah.
So what do you think motivated some of these changes? Is it the pressure from the public, members of the public who feel that some ministers were not performing in those portfolios, or is it a matter of some individuals not performing in the portfolios that they were put in? What do you think motivated the switches?
Well, I think the main consideration is performance. That's the main consideration. And remember that the President is also concerned about the image of the country and of his government, the legacy that he has to leave. Now, he used an analogy of soccer. You see, that's the pack that he has. Those are the people that he has on the list of parliamentarians. So he has to do with that. There are other people that can do better, but they are not available for appointment. So he has no choice but to try every other card that is available to him to see if it's going to work. It's more like a game for now, because this is what's available to him. He has to use that. Are there any other better parliamentarians, better than the one that is appointed? That's debatable.
I think one of the questions that people at home are raising now is, well, what happens to the ones that were not mentioned? We've seen, for example, Kanjode no longer being the Minister of Mines and Energy. What happens in that instance, for example, if we can use him as an example? Is he still going to be part of government?
Well, as much as one suffers peacefully, one dies peacefully and silently too. So if those who were not mentioned, like the Kanjodes and others, once you're not mentioned and your position is taken by somebody else, it basically means that you're out of the equation. Literally, completely out of cabinet. That's my take. That's my take. They might still be members of parliament, but in cabinet they're out.
Yeah, we've just been corrected by our producers that he actually has been appointed as the economic affairs. So there were apology on that mistake there. But let's talk a little bit about now the President spent a lot of time talking about the fight against corruption, and with the just recently ended AU summit, the AU chairperson actually dedicated this year to fight against corruption. And what has made him take on this fight against corruption more seriously this year? Not to say that he hasn't taken it seriously, but there's so much emphasis in his speech as far as the fight against corruption is concerned this year.
Then we should not forget the fact that he is inherently the first Prime Minister of the Republic of Namibia from 1990. So he has been aware of what has been happening. Maybe he didn't have the power to deal with it. Now he has the power, and it's something that he wants to fight. But on the other hand, we are in a dilemma because he wants to fight corruption. People report corruption cases, but then there's a due process that needs to be followed. That's the dilemma that he has. Sometimes you cannot just send people to jail just because of an allegation. Even if there's an allegation, that needs to be proved first. And if something is before the court, then there's nothing that the president can do. All he can do, as he said at the beginning, attitude. The attitude of the executive should change. And the attitude can only change if the executive can walk the talk of the president. The president has put his cards down. He says, I want to root out corruption. I want to eradicate poverty. So that's the two things that he's been saying ever since he became president. But is the team playing along to realize those two? That's the catch. Now, some of the cabinet ministers are accused, of course. We've heard of Cora Awards, SME Bank, and all these other cases. They are there. But these cases are either before the court. And the executive to interfere with the judiciary might not seem right. Yes, if we want him to be a dictator, to fire, whether you have reason or no reason, just be fired, then we will be creating a very difficult precedence for the president. Okay, but I think the path he has taken in handling this thing, you need to, as a father of a nation, you need to be considerate. You need to understand whether or not the accused is really guilty or not guilty. And until it's proven, that person should be declared innocent until it's proven otherwise. Now, the fight against corruption, that's the crescendo of the administration of the current president. That's the crescendo. But one would want to say, do we have the necessary institutions to combat that corruption? Do we have the necessary people who can combat that corruption? Because that's where the catch is. You cannot be sending a thief to catch a thief. It defeats the purpose. So if we have corrupt ministers or corrupt administrators, it will be very difficult for them to actually assist the president to fight corruption. They will basically be bringing everything down. And it's unfortunate.
All right. Charles, thank you so much for that brief analysis.